Hi, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to create a pestle and mortar. We're going to do it using 3D. This is Photoshop CS6 extended, so we're going to use depth maps and extrusions to create this. So let's get started. I'm going to create a new document which is 1000 by 1000 pixels. Then I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to get my rectangle marquee tool, draw a rectangle, press G for gradient. I want a linear gradient, black to white, and start at the bottom of the marquee, the rectangle, and go to the top like so. Press D to deselect, and then I'm going to come to my 3D panel, which you can get via Window 3D, and I'm going to do mesh from depth map, and we're going to do a sphere, and we're going to do create. It's going to change my workspace to the 3D workspace, which is not what I want, so I'm going to go back to my space, and to this I'm just going to tilt this a little bit and scale it down. So there's our bowl. We'll be adding some textures and some bump mapping to that, but first of all I'm going to press Ctrl H to hide all the ground plane, widgets and bounding boxes, and then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a ellipse shape, which will be the basis for our, let me just make sure that it's got a fill of 50% grey. It will be our basis for our pestle. So the pestle is the grinding stone and the mortar is the bowl. So we'll click and then hold down Shift and Alt, come out and let go like so. Let's just move that over a little bit, and then from that we want to do a 3D extrusion, and we'll do create like so. Let's do Ctrl H again, and again change the workspace, and let's rotate this like so. Now what we want to do is we want to come to this ellipse and we want to set a shape preset. I'm going to do this inflate, so it's got an inflated end, and then I'm going to turn the extrusion up so it's a bit longer. We can move it over, and then to this I'm going to come along to deform, and I'm going to taper. So it starts thin at the top, and where it gets ground it's fatter, wider, and that's basically, when you see a pestle and mortar, that's the shape you get. We're going to, if we've got time, add a little knobble or knob, whatever you want to call it, on the end. For now we can also turn up the strength of the inflation like so. And now I want to merge these two layers together, so I'm going to press Ctrl E, so that way they will interact with each other. So let's come down. The ellipse we know is our pestle, so that would be our pestle MT for material, and our depth map is our mortar, and then we've got our mortar materials. Okay, so let's take this down, let's roll it and get it in position. Like so. While we're in that position, I'm going to go to the current view and I'm going to save this view. So I'm going to call this front pers for perspective, and with a slight tilt. So front pers tilt. Just name it something that you'll remember. Now we want to add some materials to this. So let's come to the mortar material. For diffuse we're going to do replace texture, and I'm going to come down to my textures, and down at the bottom here I've got this wall, and we're also going to come to the bump, and we're going to go load texture. We're going to choose that wall again, and we're going to set the bump. We'll see what 25 does. That looks fine. Okay, now to the pestle, the front inflation, we need to apply that texture, so replace texture, wall, and to the bump we need to do it again, load texture, and set the bump to 25, and then we need to come to the extrusion material, so we'll do replace texture and the bump, load texture, and we'll set the bump to 25 again. Now if you're not happy with the way these textures look, you can go in there and you can edit the UV properties. Now the U and the V scale just scales the texture, so I'll give you an example. If we set it to 200 and 200, we get more of that texture in there, kind of shrinks it down. But if you go too far and your texture map ain't big enough, it will start to tile. I think let's try 75. That looks fine, and the UV offset just places the texture in a different space, so you can play about with that. Now we want to try and get a little end to this, so I'll quickly try and do that there, and we can extrude that, change back to my space, Control H to hide, and let's bring that over. Tell you what, let's merge that layer, Control E, merge that down, and then we can try. So we're going to go to this, and now it'll interact and it'll be hopefully be a little bit easier to place. Let's take the extrusion down. Let's give this on a shape preset, but see if we can turn this around. And we can take the extrusion down, it's a little bit tricky, but that will do us for now. And again, we just want to use that same material, so replace texture, wall, bump, load texture, wall texture, set the bump at 25, and then we want to come to the extrusion, the bump, load texture, set the bump to 25, and then diffuse, replace texture, like so. Now if we come to current view and we just swirl around with our camera, you can see that we've got our pestle and mortar. Now on this, I think the mortar, there's probably an opacity map. Let's try removing that opacity map, and now when we come to current view, we don't get that the opacity change and being able to see through our bowl. So there, that all looks good. You can see that where the textures interact with, so the inflation with the extrusion on the end here and also down here, there is a slight difference, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Considering this was all done in Photoshop, I think it's quite cool. Let's just give this a little bit of a background. We'll do filter, render clouds, and there you go. There is our pestle and mortar. I'm not going to play about with the lights because I ain't got time. Thanks for watching. I will provide the texture and the diffuse texture and the bump map texture, which is that wall texture, on the website photoshopbus.co.uk, so feel free to go there and use it and check out all my other tutorials as well as everyone else's.